And let's enjoy some games today. This is all best of fives, round of 12 of WardiTV 2020. As we start on the top left-hand side, our blue Zerg player is soO.
Yeah, I'll do the other one. In the bottom right, it is the red Terran, Kier.
I'm just going to need a moment. I've just realized that all my audio options are still the old options.
Okay.
Yikes.
No.
That's a classic. Like, you know, swap servers and everything's just the same as what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have a little look. I'll swap over to Europe after this first game just to get the exact numbers. So we'll put up with that, and it shouldn't be too bad, guys. I mean, I can hear them, which means you guys should be able to hear them. So.
You know what I hate most is that, and I feel like this really shouldn't be the case, but mouse sensitivity goes over different accounts. Like it
really
changes with accounts. Yeah. So like when I do my ladder, I gotta raise it. When I go back to casting, I gotta lower it. It's two different accounts, and I'm like, what's the point?
That over different accounts, that's actually crazy. Not even just like servers. Wow, that's
yeah. Why? I feel like it's a bug, and it's like no one's bothered telling Blizzard about it, or they never bothered fixing it. Which one?
That's actually really annoying. You know, this is my new excuse why I don't ladder so much. I'm just like, well, you know, I've got to change my mouse sensitivity. You know, it's a real ordeal.
Yeah, that's just too much for me, guys.
Yeah,
I just hate people recognizing me on ladder. I also gotta change my my ladder account name every now and again. Ninja style.
It's great. They're like, hey, are you the caster? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh my god, you're really bad at StarCraft. I'm like, oh my god, thanks, guys. I mean, and they're like, I mean, it's fine for me to be bad at StarCraft. I don't cast the game. I was like, okay, cheers, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, like we get it when we play teams.
Yeah.
Because like that, I don't bother, just like teams or whatever. But I get that. Oh, you get it often enough. Like, I'm a big fan, and then you beat them, and they're like, you're stupid anyways.
I was subscribed 4 months ago. Yeah, got gifted sub one time. I'm not gonna accept that again.
Or actually, there's even a case where like you know they're like, yeah, big fan, really appreciate it, and then like Fear Dragon cannon rush this guy, and the guy was like, I didn't expect this to go this way, and he like dotted, and it was just like, oh, okay, he's not a fan anymore. Like I can read between the lines.
Oh man. Yeah, it's definitely a weird one, as we have pretty standard opens to start this game. Kira is going to play double gas as well. Kira had some issues with Zerg in the group stages. He lost to Ragnarok, who played a very good series, but I would say it was Kira kind of got ahead well enough in all the games. He got ahead in all of the games, but then he lost it. You know, he made a mistake and gave Ragnarok away back in for, I'd say, at least 2 of the 3 games that he lost. So interested to see how he plays against soO. I mean, he was playing a bit of a combo of mech and bio, but just really needs to kind of sharpen up and not make those mistakes, because especially someone like soO, who is very scary when it comes to playing the mid game, you cannot give him a way back into games if you've already got your advantage.
Yeah, soO's mid game is pretty scary. soO overall is kind of one of those guys that like, yeah, this would be a fantastic tournament to watch, because for me it was a big question as to what position he was in.
Yeah.
Not just because it's been the off season, which makes the question mark a everlasting question for every single player, but because soO in particular, just like, you know, he won IM Katowice last year, and then I guess did okay as far as Korean pro gamers go. But yeah, it's like, is soO falling off that top 3? As I think my main question, because Solar seems to be really killing it in a lot of these tournaments, and I'll be casting him later.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. I was actually surprised it was soO versus TY, and soO just came out the gates like firing. He like just destroyed TY in the first couple of games. Then game 3 went a bit wrong, and it went to an epic game 5 series. But soO really looked good in that series, for the most part as well. So that's kind of terrifying as well, because TY is also very, very good at the minute. So yeah, so far soO's definitely been delivering. I mean, he finished first in his group as well. He's only in the round of 12 because his map score was a little worse than the other guys who finished first. So it's you know, he's kind of unlucky to be here, but at the same time, like it's kind of a matchup that I kind of feel like he should do well in. But Kira online, you know, he keeps showing up and he keeps beating everyone. So at the same time, who do you pick?
Yeah, well, I'm excited. It's a pretty cool looking TVZ, and I've seen some TVZs that have been let's say interesting, some mech late game stuff that I would like to see more info coming through as to whose side is better in that late game. I got to see you cast the Innovation vs Ragnarok series, and then I also got to cast Innovation vs Rogue, and they went 2 different ways actually. But like, I don't know, I need to see like 3, 4, 5 more. See like, okay, am I on the Zerg side of things for late game or the Terran side of things for late game? We might see that here today. We do have mech on the way for Cure with the Amada also research going to go to 3 battle cruisers.
Yep, BC production coming through. First one should be getting ready to go across nice and quickly. Here's the Hellions. Gonna try and cover up the ramp, but Queens are there initially. The BC into the main base. Only a Queen there, not even the Spore Crawler in range, actually. So this first BC, I mean, the drone's pulled pretty quick, but it doesn't take any damage at all just yet. You still have those Hellions cruising around to the bottom side.
Wow. Severely underprepared for this.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, it only gets really bad if the Hellions also get in there, I think, which soO is taking priority to stop that from happening, which seems to be working out, because he actually has a very, like, initially a very few number of Queens tailing that battle cruiser. Now he's up to 5, and that's fine.
Oh, Hellions in the natural expansion. Yeah, the Lings are pretty quick to respond, but when the Hellions are already here, they get in this little choke point, and even just killing this many Zerglings can work out quite nicely for you as well, as the extra drones you're still going to get. A lot of lost mining time as these Hellions get cleaned up. I mean, 8 kind of feels a bit surprising, kind of feels as maybe going to be a bit worse than that, but not too bad in the end. Overall, it just feels as though as this BC continues to deal damage, overall it feels as though soO just expected this to be bio, right? He went to a Baneling Nest, no Roach Roaring at all. He started a melee upgrade. He does go missiles now instead of the Carapace, so he will prioritize getting towards Roaches at some stage here, but yeah, so much so that he even commits to the Baneling speed right now, and that's not what you usually see against mech at all, so just a little bit caught off guard, not really expecting this at the moment, and maybe could have done a little bit better on the scouting in the early stages.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that is the case, that he was surprised. Otherwise, I think you have a Spore Crawler in the main, at least one, or you have like a ton of Queens in the main. But to have one Queen and no Spore Crawler was like, that's playing dangerous if you think it is a battle cruiser.
Yeah, well, the Spore Crawler was there, it was just a bit to the right-hand side, right? So it was like positioned for a Liberator, which is again sort of like, oh, you're going to play like a Liberator and like Bio or something. So, you know, same idea though, right? You don't have that Spore right there in the center of the mineral line. That's where you kind of need it, you know, for the BC.
Yeah, yep. Well, second battle cruiser's already here. Obviously, the first one lived. Pretty bad if you lose that first one. Third one will probably be started. We do have Corruptors already on the way, and we have all attack upgrades too. That's actually going to be pretty spicy as we get into more of a late game.
I wonder if he
being thrown down.
I wonder if he keeps the melee upgrades going, or if he just switches to Carapace now. Because I feel like he just went melee initially because he had Lingbane initially. But I'd be surprised if he keeps making like a lot of Lingbane, right? It feels like at least for the next couple minutes, it should just be very Roach-based. So we'll see what he wants to do. He's currently only going +2 missiles with the Infestation Pit, looking for some Swarm Hosts, of course. I mean, the script for kind of mech TVZ is very well written at this point, right? Yeah. Roaches, Corruptors, into Swarm Hosts. Kind of know how these guys like to play.
I mean, if you're expecting not to be able to bust them in that mid game with any type of Roach, Ravager, Corruptor push, then you almost have to accept that it's going to go into that late game, and the Swarm Hosts are going to get that jump started, because every wave of Locust is I mean, it's always good, and if you can get multiple waves, it's even better. It does go for the +2 melee, and I think that makes sense if you are going to go into Swarm Hosts. I think you can also go for Carapace, of course, but like the Ling Baneling stuff actually can really complement the Swarm Host, right? Because they take out that Hellbat front line, and then you grab more tanks than you really should have, or all the tanks, depending on how bad it is.
You really get that like surge of power when the Locusts drop down, you use up all the Banes, and you just go for like that big fight. And it's like really powerful. And then obviously you have to back away, but you have to back away anyways, you know, with Swarm Host. So backing away to make more Banes isn't such a, you know, it's not such a bad thing. It doesn't slow you down so much versus just playing like Roach Ravager. This is a lot of Swarm Hosts right away, just straight to like 16, not messing around at all here, soO. Especially with like not much else on the ground, like there's only 11 Roaches. So really heavy on the Swarm Hosts.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a scary number of Locusts that are going to be upgraded as well. It's Kira's going to have to be careful, actually. Like, you can't really stop trying to harass and keep map control and stop the creep spread from just literally like encompassing the map, but you also have to be careful about sending your Hellions out because they need to be back home, usually defending your tanks. In this case, the first wave seems to be going for command center or SCVs. Oh, finds a couple drones. Oh,
hey,
no.
You could get Blue Flame.
First wave's factory.
Yeah, if he gets Blue Flame, though, that's kind of big, right? Because that will slow down a lot of the defense against the rest of these Locust waves. So that's kind of big, as we do see 14 drones going down. Hellions made themselves useful. The Corruptors get you martyred by the BCs as well. I like this teleport from the BCs down to just deny this Nidus while getting home, so 2-1 there, but yeah, missing Blue Flame really feels a bit scary, especially when it's this many Locusts as well.
Mm-hmm. The Blue Flame should have been started immediately on a second tech lab,
Yeah.
which he has. This is maybe an oversight. He might not have realized he didn't get it, which is actually surprising because he would have had to cancel it to lift that factory. Because now we can't just automatically lift and cancel as Terrans.
Yeah, no, I'd see. It's very true. Did you see the command centers? Oh, that one's going to get killed off. I mean, what's here to really defend these siege tanks? Absolutely nothing. A few Hellions in the back, but they're kind of pretty far back. He just doesn't get a third siege tank here, so gets a couple. I mean, maybe just the choke point saving him more than anything there. There's a lot of depots, engineering bay, just stopping those Locusts from getting like a full-on surround, so just a couple tanks going down as the Roach Ravager army still from soO. Pretty laid back. Hasn't really used this Roach Ravager to help with any of these fights just yet.
Mm-hmm. Lack of Blue Flame is still really freaking me out, man.
Yeah, I know. I don't really feel confident in this game at all for Kira right now. Like, as long as he doesn't have Blue Flame, I'm just expecting like every single wave of Locust to just absolutely overwhelm. I'm just ready for them to like show up, kill the entire army, and be like, well, what now?
Yeah. I guess if you can really keep up the pressure with the Hellions, then, you know, maybe the Swarm Host waves aren't as well controlled. They don't go back to defend, unfortunately. Like, anything else, literally, anything else can do that. But now they're being controlled. They actually go on top of the Planetary.
Wow.
That's,
yeah,
I think that was a missed
like
opportunity.
that.
I thought they were being controlled, maybe not.
Yeah, I thought they were going to go land on all the siege tanks, right? There's like 2 Hellions here. You know, not a lot of the tanks are siege, but that's even... I mean, yeah, you miss out friendly fire, but it doesn't matter because you're just not taking as much damage anyways. So yeah, that feels as though that should have been an opportunity for maybe soO to do more, because diving in on the Planetary Fortress did absolutely nothing. As Kira, he has been keeping the command center production going, so he's moving towards the 5th base pretty quickly, and I mean, he's moving across the map now. You know, after the first wave of Locust denied Blue Flame, we kind of see Kira not really taking too much extra damage, like a couple tanks, but he's maxed out, and now he's pushing across. I mean, I'm still a bit afraid without Blue Flame, because he now, you know, this army is absolutely going to be engaged by Locusts. And can he protect it?
Kind of funny he has to use a Nidus Worm, not to, like, the butt of the Nidus Worm to come back home, but he makes another head to send the Swarm Host. All right, yeah, one. But you're right, now he's still not going to have Blue Flame for this Locust wave. And that should be pretty brutal. Yeah,
here we go. They're going to start dropping down. I mean, first tank just dies instantly. BCs are going to teleport in to try and help out. The Roach Ravager Bane going to join for this as well. And we see a lot of the siege tanks going down. I mean, this was like 8, 9 tanks that were moving across the map. Now there's 2 or 3 left over. I mean, there's a few further back as well. So he still has like a tank presence here. But I mean, this is you can't push forwards with what's left from Kira. And that just means that by the time you do get reinforcements here, there's just going to be another wave of Locusts, which again is not going to go super well for you. So it just still feels pretty okay for soO as just have Kira. Just gonna clean up some creep. I mean, obviously not looking to be overly aggressive after that fight. Just sitting back in the center, cleaning up creep, and maybe just somewhat happy to go up to 5 bases and just really let this go into a much later stage.
I mean, it's definitely great you can get to 5 bases, but I think you would want to be up to 6 or 7. Kind of mass expanding if you were allowed to. Blue Flames, once... I mean, Blue Flame's done. Swarm Hosts were also kind of targeting on top of the missile turret, oddly enough, but... They take out the Hellbats, that's fine. The rest of the army is here, but Planetary also is gonna barely not fall. Just kidding. No more Corrosive Biles to tear that down.
Yeah, that was just a save in the end. So keeps this CC alive. A lot more CCs built, and Kira is gonna start like mass expanding now, like we kind of want him to. Get up to that top right side of the map. I mean, there's not a lot of pressure to the top right, or even towards like the 3rd base position. So maybe able to get away with that if he expands up on that side. As we do see him pushing the bottom as well, so keeping soO a little bit busy as soO just has to add in another wave of Bane lanes. Upgrades still kind of just piling on through here. Plus 3 missiles and the melee upgrade with Adrenal. All of that on the way out.
I guess the same way that Cure, I would like him to double expand, triple expands. Like, soO should also be trying to combat that by just placing down hatcheries everywhere. Certainly have enough minerals. There's some of the key things I would see, like the differences of soO versus Rogue, or even Ragnarok, actually. Who played a pretty great game, late game TDZ. Swarmos using their Locust once again. Baneling's even crashing into, well, mostly Thor. Grab the Hellbats. Thor's in the front line go down. Tanks survive in the back line, but as you said last time, that's just not enough to really push with. Successfully, soO has defended, and even taken out some battle cruisers in the bottom left.
Yeah, the BCs get a base. I mean, that's going to keep soO on 5 bases for the moment, which is obviously equal with Cure. But again, it costs you all the BCs now, so now you lose that kind of value from the BCs. They're not going to be able to come around again. Actually, the Liberators and Liberator range being a priority here against, I guess, just trying to pick off these Ravagers they press forwards with the Swarm Host, maybe. So that's going to be Q's next choice here. It's kind of an interest. I don't see a lot of, like, priority of Lib range. As you do see tanks up on the top side, they're going to start getting surrounded by these Ravagers. Corrosive Bars dropping through. I mean, the Locust on the bottom get one Thor, but then do you have the Hellbats there to defend this? And again, it doesn't really feel as though... I just don't really feel as though soO's doing too much. I mean, he is trading well, don't get me wrong. But it feels like Q's kind of happy to trade like this for the moment. Obviously, over time, he's going to have to find a little bit more efficiency. As he does find the Corruptors in the bottom, it's probably going to be his last BC going down. I mean, a little bit sloppy across the board with these battle cruisers, because everyone that's gone down has had teleports available.
Yeah,
apart from maybe that one
sucks.
just that.
I mean, oh, what? Seriously? Oh, man, I saw Innovation do this yesterday. He gets... Or Cure, actually. I forgot who it was right now. But anyways, getting the Medivac upgrade?
Yeah.
What? You don't even have Medivacs. Alright, I'll talk about this in a second. The Locust's going to try to do some serious damage. Baneling's actually collided with all of the Hellbats pretty much. But kind of as the Locusts also get drawn into him, so maybe not the worst trade there, but it is going to be a cleanup for soO. So still pretty bad for Cure overall. I really can't explain that Medivac boost in this specific game.
No. It's one of those things, it's almost like he's like, oh, Live range finished, that's not the Medivac upgrade when he's playing Bio. Like, it's mech. Where are the Medivacs? Yeah, I mean,
that's so...
20-minute Medivac transition, start dropping tanks around. I've got no idea. I've got nothing for you. There's just nothing that makes sense.
He might... I don't know. I want to say it's like a mistake because you're not we're still kind of getting used to the Fusion Core having all these upgrades.
Yeah, it must be a mistake, right? I mean, I think it's just like that. Oh my god, this one finished, start the next one thing. Where obviously in this case makes no sense at all. This makes a lot of sense though for soO jumping on all of these siege tanks. Only a couple of Hellbats takes way too long to clean this out. And that was another 4 or 5 tanks going down. And now it feels like Kyo's really struggling to rebuild because he's never been able to trade well enough to kind of build up the banks. You're really starting to see the difference in all of those previous trades coming through.
Right, exactly. This is where Kira, if he was able to kind of double expand at any point, there was an Overlord on the top right he's finally taken care of. That might have been an open opportunity if he had cleared it out much earlier. Even the middle top right here, like, it could have been an opportunity before Creeper spread, and now soO has taken it. Like, I think that's something you have to take chances with, because you also have that surplus of minerals. You usually have extra command centers. It's got to be the chance you take to make up for some of these really bad fights, but these fights have also just not been perfectly set up at any time by Cure. This is actually going to go a lot better. The Hellbats actually survive a decent amount. They took on the Locust a decent amount. They weren't, like, behind the tanks this time. And the Liberator count is starting to really help, too, which I think was a good call. He might have noticed there was, like, not that many Corruptors, and he might also just think this is the, like, Pent's ultimate composition, which I think it is. Like, Liberators help just that extra amount. In terms of sieging a location.
And they're really great against the Infestors, which are coming up, right? Because
the
really annoying part about Neuroparasite is when you just can't reach the Infestors to stop them neuroing. Whereas with the Liberators, that basically should never happen if you've got good Liberator coverage. So it's just good preparation for the later stages. I was just surprised he went into it so quickly. Kind of, you know, usually I feel like we see the Liberators more of a reaction. It's like, oh, you're starting to build Infestors or so. Because these Locusts don't do too much. But this was really cute, just being very proactive about getting those Liberators up and running. Well, all said and done, I mean, soO did take a bit of a worse fight. That's where his bank just comes into play, and he's instantly rebuilt, still has 5k, 6k in the bank, so has a lot of money to work with still.
Right. It's not that his economy is, like, the most amazing we've ever seen. Only, quote-unquote, 63 workers. It's actually pretty, like, it's, like, tepid. It's not that great. But he's trading out so well because it's all about the Swarm Host, right? Yeah, he's lost Banelings and maybe Roaches and Ravagers, but in the grand context of things, he's actually not very like super expensive units. I think in a different type of, you know, a non-Swarm Host game, those resources lost would be like insanely apart from each other, like laughably apart. Well, that's an easy snipe on that would-be planetary.
Meanwhile, Roach Ravager going to grab a couple of Thors in the front. Thors are a priority right now because he just built a Great Aspire, and I don't usually like the Great Aspire versus mech, but in this scenario, there's not a lot of Thor production, right? You're much more focused on Liberators and tanks. So Broodlords might be a good way. If you can get like a good amount of Broodlords right away and catch Cure a bit off guard, it will create some very good fights for you as soO. So we'll see if he really wants to commit into that. Still has 8 Corruptors up on the map, and you can morph those into Broods. Of course, then you don't have much against the Liberators right away, so It's a decision you have to make. We see more Thors on the way now from Cure, though, so it seems as though he's going to be fairly prepared. Maybe the Broods will not be as good of a call. This is another wave of Locust sets up. Straight down, but it's just much better kind of setup here from Cure, right? The last couple fights have just been much more kind of in his favor, set up very nicely. And now Cure's really taking over the map, you know, trying to expand top right, setting up bottom left. You know, if soO lets this happen, Cure is really very much so back in this game.
Right. If he was able to double expand, that would be really good. The fact that he's already gotten to a 6th base, like a 4 position as well, was already pretty nice, because he did start taking those better engagements. I think a lot of it has to do with the Hellbats being in that appropriate location and the tanks no longer being super stacked up on each other. There's just some very awkward, I think, hasty defenses because Cure was on the back foot. But now that he's gotten a couple of good fights under his belt, he's back on the attack. He's back being aggressive, and he does even take a fight here, trying to get into soO's 3rd or 4th, whatever that was. And this actually looks like a very difficult point to break, because the Corruptors have got to get in there against multiple Thors.
Yeah.
Although now the Broodlords are here. Thors have got to choose a priority.
Yeah, I mean, Broodlords should be that priority, right? I mean, get rid of those, and the ground army is going to be pretty okay. It's just not enough Broodlords, I don't think. You know, when I was thinking Broodlords, I thought maybe you go to like 10 or 11, running against 3 4s and you do okay. This is okay. It's 9 now, so I guess it's not too far off. But there's also extra Thors showing up, right? Cure just rebuild a few of these, so he's going to have a lot of anti-air to fight this, and we're waiting for the Locust right now, it seems, before these Broodlords move forwards. So here we go. These Broods are going to start pushing in. You can see Cure is ready to kind of back away a little bit. We'll re-siege those Liberators up, and if the Locust dropping down, feels like they take a little while to go down, but they don't really kill any Thors or anything. The Broodlords disengage, and Cure will disengage as well, so no one really coming out on top of that fight.
Yeah, a little bit of a wash there. I think that, you know, Cure, if he goes into, exactly, just Thor Hellbat, I think it's the best thing he can do right now. What he saw was no longer like Banelings and Roaches and Ravagers. It's just entirely units that Thor Hellbat will do well against. I mean, not that Thor's kind of like, you ever think of them doing well against Swarm Host, but the point is the Blue Flame will do it. And you got enough Blue Flame plus Liberator coverage, and Broodlings plus Locust. I mean, that's still a nasty combination, and they're very well upgraded too. But they would actually not be able to burn through a solid setup, you know, where the Blue Flame Hellbats are actually on the front line. This feels like it's getting better for Cure. And soO might want to maybe invest back into like Banelings, for instance, to make sure that that defensive layer isn't there again.
Yeah, I feel like when you see it's more Hellbat Thor, then you have to switch your tech as well as soO, right? The biggest issue is he spends so much on this army. And so if you lose this army, a lot of your bank's been depleted. We mentioned his work count hasn't been good, and it hasn't exactly improved anytime recently. So, you know, he's not been rebuilding his bank very much, and that's been Cure that's been building up a bank. So if you lose this army, you're probably going to have to rebuild into like a weaker composition anyways, which might be a better comp, but you're probably not going to have as much of it either. So it's kind of, it really is a rough scenario for soO, as these Broodlords currently just being pushed away. And this is very reminiscent of the TY game on Triton, where he was in a very good spot and you just couldn't close out a later game TVZ. As these Locusts drop in, there's nothing to counter those though, so the Thors now taking a lot of damage, giving the Broodlords a chance to get in play. I mean, that's what soO really needs, but as soon as those Locusts disappear, these Thors can turn back around, and that's still 10 Broodlords, but 6 Thors, they kill Broods so quickly nowadays. One goes down almost instantly. The Broodlords will kind of hold the Thors back, if nothing else. Just missing some Hellbats here, and this really would have been maybe even like game for Cure with how well that fight was initially going for him.
Yeah, I think if he had like 10 Hellbats on the front of those Thors, it's it's game over.
Yeah, maybe you don't lose the game, right, but you lose the Broodlords, and like I say, from there, it's a really difficult return.
Yeah, and he is so like, he's just recommitting to it, and he's trying to get to Infestors, but then there's that Liberator problem. The Liberators with their range aren't as good as they were previously. They lost one range on their extended range. But they still do a great job of taking care of the Infestors. Almost like always, the Zerg has to, you know, there's so many things to micro. They're going to miss micro that a little bit and lose the Infestors, turn into a bad trade instead of a good one. So I am still in favor of Cure's composition. Just needs to add those Hellbats or just get a lot of Liberators. And even picking off a couple Swarm Hosts here and there is nice. I'm guessing soO just replaces it with more Broodlords.
Yeah, I mean, yes, so right. He's just going to go mass Broodlord. So he's going up to, what, 24 Broodlords? It is a lot. But, I mean, at this stage, you could even just go, like, Vikings to counter this, because there's actually just no Corruptors. I mean, I guess obviously there's 3 starports up, so you've got potential. I mean, he's still going to start building it as well. He realizes it's just not the Corruptors here to fight this. So here we go. The Hellbats are in a little bit of the wrong position to deal with the Locusts, which are off down the bottom side, but they're not doing too much anyways. The Liberators really do just help to just soften that kind of number a little bit. As here we go, the Thors against the Broodlords. And the Broodlords seem to be doing pretty well initially. The Infestors get the flank around, which is really nice on the Neuroparasites because now they're not in that Liberator range. And so soO is going to overwhelm this army. He will kill off these. I mean, he's one-shotting the Thors right now as the Broodlings drop down on them. This was really nicely done by soO, especially with the Infestor flank on the bottom side, getting around where those Liberators are set up.
Yeah, of course, Cure couldn't have seen that there was Infestors coming through the south side. That was a really good move by soO. But I think just with the way that his army was set up, it was hindsight 2020, right? But it was a problem to stay where he did. I think he should have evacuated as soon as he realized that there was a heck of a lot of Broodlords, and he lost a lot of his fodder for his front line. Yeah. But in that weird twist that sometimes happens, just a couple of Vikings going to be doing wonders. All the Infestors seem to be out of juice anyways, that they have infested Terrans anymore. They could try and fungal repeatedly, but no, they don't have the energy for it. So a lot of Broodlords are going to lose their lives, like 6 Vikings at a time. I think they're gonna soon beat out the Corruptors. You just need to get them on the front line.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This is where the economies come into play, right? Where soO has a lot of brews, but now he actually needs to build up something else, which is those Corruptors, and he can't really afford to do it like Cure can, because Cure's got so many bases compared to soO. He's got so many more workers, and that difference is becoming very apparent right now as the Broodlord count starts to go down. And after such a good fight, soO is genuinely in real danger. I mean, at this point, I like what he's doing as well, where he's just target firing Broodlords, because I feel like if you just kill the Broods, you know, get them to a reasonable number again, the Thors will then win out, and those Corruptors obviously then just kind of dead weight, especially if you want to just make more Broodlords. I mean, it's just so expensive. Fungal's starting to come down. The Vikings just like, cool. I mean, the Broodlords aren't even running away anymore, so every single Broodlord going down here as Cure continues to make kills. Crazy.
Yeah, he's like he couldn't even bring Queens forward to help out here. 1 Queen.
I know. Does he have queens?
Sad. This is a
he
sad
doesn't have any
end.
queens? Oh, he has 1 queen. Wow, yeah. Wow,
that's it.
That's so depressing for soO. This army graph is insane. Like, soO like completely destroys the Terran army. It's not even close, and then his army just sort of tails off as Cure rebuilds. What a crazy situation. GG from soO. And Cure takes game 1.
Almost like the Zerg got caught by surprise by a tech swap.
I know. I'm glad you're here. Now that everything on my microphone is coming through like essentially a microphone, it was like muting the game sounds. And I figured it out. I was like, oh my god, I'm so smart. And now everything works. I'm like, amazing.
Genius.
I know. I'll take it. All right, in the bottom right-hand side, down a map, our red Zerg player is going to be soO.
In the top left, there's the blue Terran. He is Cure.
Game 2 of our best of 5. Cure ends up winning the first after, again, really a true effort. A game that fell away from him in the earlier stages. It's kind of funny because that's kind of the opposite of what happened yesterday or the day before against Ragnarok, where the games against Ragnarok, he really got ahead in the early stages, and then he made misplays. Like, you know, he let his army get surrounded, he let a big counterattack in, he didn't do any damage himself, and that's how Ragnarok got back into the game himself. This was like the opposite of that. Cure kind of struggled in the mid game and was really able to outplay soO going into the later game, which maybe is kind of a soO thing as well, right? soO really is, you know, we talk about him being a very mid-game player. It really is true. He's very much so a mid-game player, and it kind of shows in these longer games where, you know, even with big advantages, it all starts to fall apart for him.
It is funny that the guy, like, well known for his mid game, showing off a lot of really good mid games in previous series of this tournament, that his failure was transitioning to the late game. Like, if he had just stayed on mid game, he probably would have done better. And maybe he's gonna think of that now, as it's a best of 5 we're likely to see Mech once again. But yeah, I think if he just stayed on the same composition and just continued trading and like focusing with his swarm hosts, getting some run bys, keeping Cure off of any extra base, then I think he would have been okay. I know it was starting to get a little bit worse towards the end of that, you know, as he transitioned, but I think it was still like a point where it was good enough. And you can still add in neural parasites with the beginning army, or like change up the ratio of Banelings to Ravager and all that type of stuff. And I think it's still a very effective army. But instead he went to mass Broodlords. And we even have Lambo in chat saying such things. He should have just stayed and traded. And
Yeah.
if Lambo says that, then it's probably true.
I didn't mind the idea of Broodlords when it was like the 3 Thors, and it was like, well, maybe you can catch him off guard. But as soon as the extra Thors showed up, I feel like, okay, you just say, you cut your losses, those Broods maybe won't do so well, you can use them a little bit, and you just go back to trading. And instead, he was just like, no, you know what, if I just build more Broodlords, I'm sure it's gonna... No, it is not gonna work. I mean, it kind of did for a moment, but then so much so that he had to make so many Broodlords, he had literally 0 anti-air left. So,
Yeah.
pretty tough scenario.
Too many Broodlords at that point.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, if it was the case where if he had a Sport Crawler line or like legitimately had 6 queens that he could pull to the front, like I think it's a bit different. But
yeah, no, I mean,
I'm also
he was very close to still making it work anyways.
Yeah, I also just think that, like, not that I ever want the patches to change, that Terran bias, am I right? But the Thor Broodlord dynamic has actually been changed, I think, 3 times in total, all in favor of the Thor. It kind of makes sense if that looks better now. It still requires like a good position and the appropriate composition, or really riding hard on the hub at thing. But yeah, Broodlords are actually a bit tricky, as in really tricky.
Yeah, it's really tough. As we see this time, soO is again going to go a little bit differently, I guess. Roach Roaring right away here. So going to drop that down. In the main base as well, it's almost like he wants to keep this hidden, so might even just look for some aggression here off of like 38 to 40 workers. Seeing what the gases he wants to add in. But the thing is, whatever he does, if he gets aggressive, Q's got a Banshee on the way, right? So the Banshee opening is immediately just amazing against any sort of Roach aggression. So doesn't really look good for soO if he wants to just make a bunch of Roaches here. Find out shortly. He does take just 1 extra gas, so it kind of feels like he doesn't. It kind of feels like he just wants to keep making drones. But he also has just a lot of gas in the bank right away. Takes a few Roaches. The Hellions from Q are gathering up out in the center.
If he stops at 6, I'm okay. I mean,
Yeah.
defensively, Roaches are good. Their problem is that they might be a little slow, so you still want some Lings to initially scare away those Hellions, but Roaches will be guaranteed stick around. So you had a little bit of a Ling run by. Tempts. If there was more, they probably could have canceled CC, but that would have required quite a commitment. Even having Ravagers being built. Interesting. I mean, he is droning, and I think it's the right call, but maybe just trying to scare Cure?
Yeah, the Ravagers are kind of interesting as the badge shows up and there's absolutely no detection, so that's not going to go too well for soO at all. As, well, that's 5 drones killed, and this Banshee will just continue to chase. Well, doesn't even need to chase drones around. There's drones just popping into the natural, so this is just going to be a free bunch of drone kills. 8. I mean, just a lot of damage being done, basically, so not really looking good. Let's see 9 drones going down across the map. A little bit of a Roach Ravager just trying to deal some damage, but then the second Banshee just deals with this, right? So you don't really do any damage. It's going to cost you a lot because you've spent a lot of gas on those Ravagers. And I mean, this is just a disaster for soO, who kills 2 SCVs. Which is, you know, for all of those Roaches and Ravagers, not worthwhile. You lose a lot of workers at the same time, 9 workers. And both those Banshees are still super healthy. So those combined now will go across and start one-shotting drones.
That was such a... Yeah, you don't really see, at this level, Banshees doing that much damage.
No.
Man, it felt like soO was expecting the battle cruiser thing,
Yep.
like the old his queens in the main, and he even had double Sport Crawler in the main.
There was still a late lair for the there's still a late lair as well though, right? For like dealing with PC. I just feel like there's no scouting from soO, so he's playing completely blind, and so he's just left kind of guessing. You know, this game he opens Roaches and it's going to be bio. It's just none of it's really adding up. And that was kind of the one thing of the early game last game. He also didn't know it was going to be the BC, right? The Sport Crawler was out of position, etc. So just a couple things in the early game definitely not going well for soO. And right now, Queen going to deal some damage to these Banshees, which are going to get 1 more kill. Then, okay, just lose the Banshee. Should maybe just finish the Extractor. I mean, why not, right? It's an extra drone you have to reinvest. Some gas you can deny.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Overseer's on the way now. He's gonna transfuse the gas, isn't he? Does not have to replace that. Cloak runs out anyways. Now there is a large marine force that soO is just simply not prepared for. He has just nothing.
This is the thing about playing bio as a follow-up as well. When you do damage like this, it's really just cascades into a disaster because the bio hits so quickly afterwards. You don't have time to recover. So yeah, soO's been rebuilding drones and keeping back up in worker camp, but it means he's got no army at all to really deal with this. And you know, now he's kind of switched in towards Ling Bane, and lost all the Roach Ravagers, so there's not even that to help him out. He doesn't have any Banelings yet, so these Marines are just having a field day, wandering through, getting a few extra drones. I mean, just really making life difficult for soO right now, who is going to try and engage in, and Q, I mean, he just lifts and goes to the third base if he feels like he has to. He's going to lose a medevac. Saves one of them. I mean, he did enough damage here to justify losing a medevac for Marines.
Yeah. I think soO has just been completely caught off guard. He probably thought it was battle cruiser, or he wanted to do the push, then it was Banshee that ruined his plans, took a lot of damage. Probably expecting mech, not mech, bio. So a very swift follow-up instead of having that ample opportunity to get back up to the drones. This is it's a bit of a disaster. If soO is able to make a comeback here, I guess it'll be based off of some decent Baneling hits. But Kira is amassing quite the tank army behind this. Combat Shields is finally done. And he still has double drops going on, dealing a lot of damage.
Yeah, Marines moving through and going to go in after a bunch of the drones here in the main base. That's going to be 5 workers killed off. Let's lose the medevac, but again, it's keeping soO behind on workers overall. The army is really insane here from Kira as well, right? I mean, any push is just going to be so hard to hold, especially on a map like Nightshade, where you can push quite easily, and you're going to be set up behind these rocks and this ledge in front of the 4th base. Tanks are just going to be amazing there, so this is really, really tough for soO. I mean, this is Kira very ahead in the early game, and this is kind of a bit more like what we saw Kira versus Ragnarok, where Kira was very far ahead, and then he made mistakes to kind of get behind again, but this should be an advantage he should never be able to lose. Like, he would really have to mess up a fight, like walk into Banelings to lose this one. Exactly.
Yeah, walk into Banelings. I guess with this type of composition, like a Hail Mary Infestor Fungal would be a good idea, as I watch the Infestation be put down, but it's going to be a Hail Mary Hive instead, which is going to take a very long time to actually get something done with that. I mean, Infestors, then Pathogen Glands, that's a decent amount of time, but I think doable. Hive, Ultra, Chitinous, that's a longer time.
Yeah.
And I think Kira would have done this push by then and probably, at the very least, destroyed the 4th, if not should have won the game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I really hope he messes up the engagement, basically. So you're just hoping he messes up his fights enough so you can just about hold him off, and maybe he overcommits to killing you, and then maybe you can get ultras out and be like, oh, I can just about hold. So that's kind of the goal from soO, but Kira's going to start pushing. 2-2 will be done shortly, and it's going to take a big mistake to mess this up again. It's going to be really, really tough. He's got Marines on the left side. There's some Ling Bane down there to deal with this, though, so nice position from soO, at least deflecting one of these drops. But it's the main army coming through the middle of the map that's going to be that little tougher to deal with. Kira's playing it very safe, sieging up on the edge of creep as he cleans some of it out. So we'll not go too far forwards right away.
He's also going into Widow Mines with Drilling Claws. Interesting transition. I actually like it. It has shown itself to be actually Ling Baneling, and there's a handful of Ravagers from kind of that sloppy early game. So, I mean, tanks or Widow Mines, but I actually like the combination a lot. 2-2's going to finish up here, but it's going to take a little while to actually push forward. There certainly is a little bit of an area where you have to be careful to not be surrounded, and then you get near those tanks, or the rocks with the tanks. Then that's when it's like, oh, how does Zerg deal with this one? A Viper would be very helpful, and we have one on the way.
Yep, gonna be popping out. That one blinding cloud, maybe 2, can really save this day, maybe. For soO, he does come in with Ling Bane along the right side. It's just the tank coverage is very good. And like you say, the combination of tanks and Widow Mines is really nice. Especially because you try and fight tanks and Widow Mines in different ways. Like against tanks, you just want to flank in and fight all at once. Against Widow Mines, you kind of want to send like a few units forward, soak up the Widow Mine shot, send a few more in. But that doesn't work against siege tanks. So it makes this fight even more difficult for soO. As we're going to be seeing those few Marines just lifting up. The counterattack got dealt with, so now reinforcements with Kira will come across the map as well. And again, really just slow pushing this in no rush at all to force a fight if he doesn't have to. And eventually soO's like, yeah, I'm going to have to try and break this, but it does not look pretty. And now Bane's rolling into way too much bio, so they don't even get a chance to get close. And Kira will take the 2-0 lead. Really need to see a little bit of sharpening up here from our Zerg. He's not having a good time at all. Swap down to him to introduce him first. He's the Red Zerg, down 0-2, needs to try and bounce back. It is soO.
And at the top right, as the Blue Terran, he is Cure.
Feels like online monster mode is beginning to be enabled again. It's a bit slow going today. This series is really interesting because of who they play in the next round as well. It's going to be Raynor, who's the next opponent for these guys. So if Kyo advances, we get like a Kyo Reynor round of 8, which is obviously like very exciting because Kyo looked pretty good against Serral, to say the least, playing on 300 ping on the European server and IAM qualifiers. So Kyo Reynor on more even footing on NA ping, it should make for a really great series tomorrow, if that's, you know, if soO can't get back into this.
That'd be really sick.
Yeah,
I
really.
see some people talking in chat about how like Ragnarok beat Cure, and I was actually just thinking that, you know, I mean, a simple explanation is like different days, different results, first of all, and then also different styles. You just getting against TVZ doesn't mean you're against all TVZ. And then you bring up that this might be up against Reynor next, and I'm like, oh, Ragnarok and Reynor can have like some similar styles sometimes. Ragnarok's from what I always see of him, he's always a more aggressive player.
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of run-bys, Roach Ravager attacks, you know, swiftly following up into a macro game type stuff. And that might just be what Cure has a weakness against. I think Cure Reynor would be an amazing series, but that might be the Zerg that takes him down. Yeah,
it's going to be really awesome no matter what. The entire bracket, I was just saying this here before we start, but the entire bracket worked out really well. We got a lot of really cool TVZs and the TVP in the round of 12, and then pretty much all the round of 8 matches are going to be awesome no matter what. And it's like, I mean, I guess it's hard to not get good matches, right? When it's, you know, you've got good players, but there's not really many mirror matchups and stuff, and it's like, you know, it's just a bit like, ooh, yeah. And I didn't even have to rig it. Like I said, it was all done by seeding of what the players were able to, of what the players ended up scoring in terms of map scores and stuff. So it's always like feels good, man, as well.
Excuse you, Wardy. I don't think there's ever been a rig in any StarCraft 2 ever.
I've definitely rigged one of my brackets before. Not rigged, right? But I've definitely been like, well, it's like 50-50. I flip a coin. It's like, well, you know, I'd rather watch TVZ and TVP than ZvT and whatever, you know.
No, it definitely happens. Even seeding sometimes is it's like, is there a reason for WCF standings to be used? Like, technically, you could argue no for any current seeding right now, but
they still seed it.
Yeah, they're still seeding pretty much with that in mind. So it happens.
Here, a little bit of a switch up here. Gonna go for the 3CC on Internal Empire. I mean, pretty much the largest map, pretty much the most macro-friendly map, so third base on this one nice and quickly makes a lot of sense. It's the map where you pretty much never see a Roach attack. It just doesn't work. It's a long rush distance. It's just not pretty. Like, it just doesn't work out very often. Even against like a 3CC, you have so much time to prepare against it, it's unlikely to be successful. However, he loses the Reaper, and that does maybe open some aggressive opportunities for soO, just because it would be hard for Cure to scout it.
Yeah, well, of course, soO didn't have aggressive scouting the last 2 games. He will be able to see the command center this time. I mean, just one Marine's not going to stop an Overlord. Not like this, anyways. So that's the good news, but it's already a little bit too late. Like, if that is literally a command center built next to the Overlord, because sometimes the Terran expects the Overlord to be in the natural, and only one Overlord too. But it's actually over there, and you immediately see it slap down. I think the Zerg can kind of change up their minds, what they're going to do this game, and be like, okay, I'm going to all in you now. But now it's like, it's great that he scouts it when he does. It's still pretty early, but early enough to do an all in. Probably not. He just set up a lair at a time where I figured you would be able to delay that a little bit more. But so be it. All right, it's a lair, and he's also going to Roach War and expecting the possibly mech again. He did actually get a full scout. Yeah, he got an entirely full scout.
He saw the fusion core, so he's just going to go. That's why he goes to the lair so fast as well, right? Just really rush out that Spire ASAP.
Yeah.
Because the sooner the Spire comes up, the sooner you start pushing those BCs away more confidently. So, yeah, just expecting the mech, and that's exactly what Cure is going to give him. And so we'll see if soO can obviously set up nicely. I mean, this is already a better start from soO in terms of like playing against the mech than what he had on Simulacrum, because on Simulacrum he did open Baneling Nest and a bit of Ling Bane, and it was a little bit dodgy. This time he's straight into information, knows what it is, Roach Roar and Lair. As the Italians just pick up the rest of the Lings over on the left-hand side.
Good little movement there, killing a creep tumor. It's super effective now that you can't even cancel creep to kill 1 or 2 creep tumors in the early game, so
I kind of like it though.
Pretty worth.
You know, maybe it's the Terran bias speaking, but I really do feel like it's a positive change for the game, because it actually feels like there's more of like a fight around it versus just like before you come in, you'd be like, I'm gonna go, and then there's like cancels. There's like the Hellion's like, well, yeah, I guess we'll just back away.
It kind of feels like that perfect change where, again, maybe Terran bias, but we watch a ton of TVZs happen, or like even ZVPs, and the creep threat isn't that different. So
Yeah.
it's not something that, Zerg players are going to be like crying on that they're super underpowered, but it is something that I think is like, all right, now you have like a little more involved around placement. I also like it.
PC gets pushed away, by the way. There's 0 damage done, so not a lot gained early game from Cure this time, which is kind of fine as well, because he is 3 CC, so, the BC was coming in a little bit later in the first place. Anyways, second BC on its way. That one won't teleport across the map, because at this point we're going to be seeing Corruptors coming into play, and so you're just going to want to make sure you can just fire that across. So you have the teleport away available. He's going to try and come back in with the battlecruiser, but again, not much to really be done. Just, if you can get a transfuse or so off, that's nice, because obviously then the next BC will have more damage potential, but yeah, Corruptor's coming in. BCs just need to keep themselves safe, and yeah, I mean, for Cure, obviously overall, it's just a bit more passive with the fast 3 bases, and he already is just 60 workers and mining away. But soO's already 4 bases, up on 81 drones, by the way, before the 4th base is even ready. So he's got a lot of workers out here.
Ooh, only 1 upgrade, and I saw a Nidus work. Oh,
Gonna drop Infestation Pit as well, though. Yeah. It kind of felt like you could go, like, maybe Corruptor, Roach, Ravager, and just bust. But then maybe he has too many drones for it as well.
I think that would be true. Like, 81 drones is an awful lot. Clearly anticipating transferring to a 4th base that was supposed to be down just a little bit faster, so... Hype over, now disappointment. Stormhost Nidus. Not the coolest thing, I guess, but that's what it's going to be. I liked Cure's follow-up here into the Cyclones first, as he did not see a threatening number of roaches. In fact, like, no roaches at all.
Yeah.
So better to play careful there. Get some defense against the Corruptors coming across the map. Now adding in those tanks, of course. Actually, ooh, interesting choice for upgrades. You usually go 3 battlecruisers. It's kind of a standard when you get Yamato.
He's going to go...
to go into a ship weapon.
Oh, I thought he was going to go extra starports, but he just go 4th and 5th factory.
That's, yeah, I would have been with you. Dedicating to the ship weapons, maybe you do something that's a little, Diamond League, let's be honest, like quick 3 battlecruiser, but it can work if it's really going to go into that passive super late game. It's actually, it can be a smart idea.
So, maybe, because a few players have been playing like 3 starports instead of factories number 4 and 5. Maybe he feels like that doesn't work, but he still likes the idea of like having a higher battlecruiser count, so he's just going to keep building BCs and focusing on that, but having enough ground army to be a bit safer against like swarm hosts, etc. Because every time I see someone try and go 3 starports, as the Italians get some drone kills, they seem to have a lot of trouble. The swarm hosts do a bit too much damage. They're running around after swarm hosts. The Corruptors catch the BCs out of position. They get a kill or 2, and it never masses up correctly. So yeah, there's 2 more starports. It's just a bit later than usual.
Yeah, and it might be also because he was able to get such a great economy that these like really aren't too far apart.
Yeah.
Basically the time of a factory being built, and he immediately slap down those starports. So I think you're right. I think it just is like, this is going to be a safer way to play, but if you can get to the 3 starports and constant battlecruiser production up to 12, 13, 14 battlecruisers, that's a really hard army to beat. And Prep is no longer super dependable for it.
Yeah, because the issue with the Corruptors is if you have like 20 Corruptors to fight it, you've got 10 BCs, you lose half your Corruptors at the start of the fight. And then it's 10 BCs versus 10 Corruptors. And it's just not enough in terms of the Corruptor count. So it is pretty tough, as you're going to see these BCs as well, going to come forward and be used for some initial Swarmhost defense. And with missile turrets as well coming in, like, it's actually not so bad. Because a lot of the Locusts right away, drop some Yamatos, teleports away. This is perfect, right? Teleporting out, killing some of the Corruptors already just working down that Corruptor count while keeping your BCs alive. And yes, that's what we see every time, but it's especially important when you play this kind of starport style, because you're really reliant on getting that battlecruiser count up and high, and if you start losing a BC here or there, it's way harder to replace than the couple of Corruptors you're killing off.
Right. Battlecruiser are all about retention, basically, whenever you see them, and it's not just like how they're going to work out better into the late game, it's also just, it's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be able to teleport away and build up their numbers. In a perfect game, of course. Locusts and Swarm Hosts, not a surprise, really. Blue Flame is just started. Has he heard the Nidus scream? So it's going to be a little complicated, but actually it was a really nice engagement there. I kind of want to call this the Fly Depots initially, and then the Hellbats still did their job. Great start for Cure, already on 4 bases, going to a 5th, and now having 3 battlecruisers at a time.
It's one of those scenarios where if you just jumped on a siege tank or 2, you would have got a couple kills, because the Hellbats just can't kill them fast enough anyways. But yeah, jumping on the depots doesn't help out, as, yeah, he has mentioned expanding from Cure. I mean, soO's up on 5 bases as well. I do feel like on Eternal Empire, there's a bit of a tougher time. There's a bit of a fight on some BCs. Corruptors getting Yamato'd again. You do have a bit of a tougher time, I feel, taking more than 5 bases as the Zerg. I mean, if you can get the bottom corner up, sure, that's great. Even like the left side base can be tough because it's so quick for the Terran to push from their 4th base to that 5th. So it does create a bit of a weird dynamic later in the game as we see these BCs are sticking around to try and fight. But yeah, there's no missile turrets here to really back this up or anything. The Corruptors gonna get a couple. Okay, there's gonna be repairs there, so the SCVs will keep the BCs alive. That's nicely done because now actually a lot of Corruptors have gone down. So far 11 Corruptors for 1 battlecruiser.
All right, that's not worth it. It just sucks that Kira didn't repair that, you know, ASAP, because then that also may have survived and been an even worse trade. He dies on top of repair. Minor
mistake, but I think when you're losing 1 BC for 11, it's okay, right? Like,
yes.
You know, I'm sort of thinking, like, in previous games when I've seen this, I've seen a lot of Terrans getting confused with the Swarm Host, and then it's like, by the time you've lost 2 or 3 BCs, then you're getting to like 10 or 11 Corruptor kills. But soO's not really finding that damage at all. As about to pick off a Rochi on the top side. We do just see these Locusts of soO pressing forwards in towards the natural expansion again.
Not much there. So this would be a lot of lost mining time. Oh no, the back is there.
Well, the SCVs just actually try to keep mining, yeah. Well,
no, that's still 17 SCVs.
But 17 SCVs only brings them equal on workers. I mean, obviously the Swarm Host player typically plays with like a lesser economy than what the Zerg usually might like, but it's still not a bad economy from Kyo. He's maxing out. The next stage for him really is just building up a bit of a bank, and then he can really start to trade a bit more. A lot of his bank right now is going into extra structures, you know, CCs, some of the gas on starports, for example. So now his bank will start to build, and he's going to have the setup to really build off of that bank as well. So looking quite nice for Kyo. I do like his spot here. He's got teleports in the BCs, so he should be able to Yamato and fight this. I mean, even the Corruptors are kind of questioning, like, do we want to go into this? You're going to lose 7 Corruptors instantly. You maybe get 1 BC just because of the time it takes to Yamato and how many Corruptors there are, but these BCs, man, you got to do something about them because right now they've just picked off another hatchery.
Yeah, they're really bullying soO right now.
Yeah.
As you come forward, there's the Yamato. As I said, maybe 1 back goes down. No teleport?
He's going to fight it. I don't like it because there's queens underneath as well, so he's going to start losing a bunch of these BCs. Now he's going to start teleporting away, and it's working. He's getting some queens, but I mean, he lost a lot more initially anyways, right? So I mean, again, right now I don't mind it continuing, but like, again, you lost a couple initially. There's 1 more as he misses the teleport. This is now 4 battlecruisers lost. For the extra 9 Corruptors and killed and a few queens, he's lost 3 more BCs. So that's definitely not, you know, on that borderline of this wasn't actually what you want to do at all. So
no, I think underestimating the queens transfusing, you know, and then target firing Corruptors and queens is, yeah, as we saw, he lost a battlecruiser misjudging that. So not too great. Also, a lot of time to repair that many weak battlecruisers, and yeah, this actually could be a problem if the Corruptors immediately collect themselves. They could try and go after 1 or 2 of the weak ones. The Locust are going to see what's up, and that's exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah, he's going to come in. Yamato's again, obviously teleports on cooldown, so more BCs dropping down. That's 2 more BCs that have been killed. Make this 3 in a second. These Corruptors are just going to keep going it forward, but the actually Yamato's coming online is really nice, and even a teleport or 2 to help out. Well, again, what was that then? So that was 7 more Corruptors, but still 3 more BCs though. Like, it is worthwhile. I think it's completely fine for soO, you know, because he's only really losing those Corruptors. There's nothing else coming in at the same time, so still feels good.
Yeah, but I think, you know, you have to make sure not to be too focused in on the battlecruiser stuff, because all right, I literally lost. My monitors aren't working anymore, so I don't know what's happening.
Well, as not really much, just a little bit of a skirmish, a few Roaches and Ravages. Kyo's just taking this forward base, so trying to get up to base number 6, which immediately makes the forward base of soO a little bit problematic as well on the top left-hand side.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know what that was. That lasted like 20 seconds. I was going to say, though, like, even though the battlecruiser losses can be a big deal, and 1 more is going to go down, possibly more, there's so many Corruptors. No Cyclones on the ground, no Thors, just those missile turrets. And even the popping ones, actually, trying to get the Yamato and teleport away. Not... Oh, jeez, that was barely in time.
But now these Corruptors are here, right? I feel like the Cyclone production should have come sooner, because there's not really been a threat of Roach Ravager, and he's kept building tanks. I feel like if you're going to go with these BCs, the Cyclones are like the natural, you know, next step. There's 2 factories here. Because the thing is, especially in your bases, these Roaches aren't ever going to break through, right, is the idea. And so stuff like this would never happen. These Corruptors would be absolutely getting murdered by Cyclones already. Cyclones don't even have mag field accelerate. It feels as though Q's just not even thought about them.
Yeah, he probably thought he didn't need them, but that Corruptor count not only like kept strong, but also increased. We also have a very effective fight over to the left side as Locust come in with the Roach Raptor Baneling. Gonna deny that base, and I mean, as soon as I was gonna talk about that everything else was going okay for Cure, everything went to shit for Cure. So very well timed there for soO. Getting battle cruisers, denying base, getting a lot of that ground army that also has to be replaced after he was already replacing really expensive battle cruisers. So he really doesn't have a bank to do that, and soO has taken the map with hatcheries and creep spread, and he still has a solid Corruptor count, so gonna grab his command center. I really thought soO was doing quite, like, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a 3-0, but we're gonna back in this game.
I'm worried though, because he just built the Great Aspire, and I'm really scared he's gonna make too many Broodlords again. I've seen soO do it one too many times now. You know, first time I'm like, okay, second time I'm like, soO. So we'll see what he does with that. I mean, in fairness, there's no Thor production at all right now. And Q's just lost factories, so he doesn't have much production generally. He actually loses the top base as well. And replace that with an orbital, but again, it's just lost mining time. You're not really keeping up. And soO has been able to establish bases bottom right and in the center right. And that's really key for him. So he really does have just continued economy, continued mining. And unlike Simulacrum, he has still 70 workers. He's still mining quite comfortably and building up a bank while trading, instead of that, you know, economy dropping down over time.
Things are looking very good for soO. Cure still certainly has a chance to bring it back. He's going to be taking, hopefully, eventually, going to take the better resource loss trades once again, like he was 4 minutes ago. But if soO can contain him on these bases, then it's going to be really tough to do so. Banelings, once again, looking for those Hellbats. They're going to find them, but only after they did their job, so not the worst engagement here. It looks like maybe Corruptors tried to go into the right side, but didn't find anything to kill. The Battlecruisers are actually over on the left, so that was not too bad. Actually, Cure getting what he wanted to, maybe not timing everything out totally correct, is going to replace a lot of those lost ground units with 24 Corruptors. And that makes sense. That is quite the Battlecruiser fleet. All fully upgraded, by the way.
14 33 BCs. You absolutely need a good Corruptor count. Because again, this is what, 24 plus 6 Corruptors, so 30. You're going to lose half those Corruptors to the Yamatos. Maybe you cancel 1 or 2 Yamatos, but that's going to be like about it from the start. As he comes in, he fights this. He doesn't even drop. I guess some of the BCs have used their Yamatos, right? He's just going to straight up fight this and doesn't even really start teleporting away. Whoa. I mean, he's losing a lot of BCs.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunity to micro. I think he was hoping there'd be less Corruptors popping out, you know? Kind of looked at his dinner plate and was like, yeah, I can eat all that, and suddenly just more kept coming. Not the greatest, but he also, I wanted to say that he was doing a great job this time focus firing on the queens. They couldn't transfuse, because that's kind of one of the things I went for the last time he fought like that. This time, just so many Corruptors were actually being produced at that right moment.
This is really where actually the composition so's playing would not work if there was just like any amount of Cyclones, right? Because he's just got nothing to protect the Corruptors from Cyclones. I'm still surprised. I mean, I get it. There's been Roach Ravager on the map, but I feel like if you've got this many BCs, you just build the Cyclones and the BCs deal with the Roach Ravager. Because if the Corruptors come forwards, the Cyclones just pull back under the BCs. If the Roach Ravager pushes in, Cyclones pull back under BC. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a very easy solution to kind of Cure's problems in this game, although he is establishing the top left, right-hand side, right? So if he gets the top left up and mining, he still has income to keep rebuilding this, and maybe he can make it work, as some Swarmers even being shot down initially, but there's, again, not too much immediately here to shut down these Locusts, so just the initial damage will pick up a couple of siege tanks.
But to what end? I mean, to your point, if you have a good battlecruiser count, which it's not as good now, then you can just add on those Cyclones and only worry about the air, not to worry about the tank production. But he's still building tanks. Instead of reinforcing Cyclones with an upgrade to save these battlecruisers, he's trying to depend on missile turrets that don't kill them fast enough. And this still looks like it's going to go favorably for soO, because Cure is not... Okay, well, Broodlords. Okay. He's not getting Cyclones. I agree with you. It seems like an easy answer, and I know people are going to be like, really think they're better than the players, but can't say that Cyclones would have been a good idea, guys, right?
With the way that so's playing, I'm just thinking, like, what does... The thing is, if you build Cyclones, you force soO into different ground units. But if you force them into ground units, he's got less Corruptors, which is immediately a win for you as well, right? So, yeah, I don't see any way in which I disagree with the Cyclone decision. We do see Broods dropping down. I mean, this is obviously... I like the Brood Lords here because there's literally zero anti-air bar the Battle Cruisers, and obviously they're going to be busy with the Corruptors to the point where Cure types out GG, and soO will take a game on Eternal Empire to get himself on the board in the series.
Snap, guys. Wow.
I know.
You know what, though? I bet you couldn't break 1,500. I think that's impossible.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Twitch just isn't up to breaking 1,500. Twitch chat has its limits.
Never gonna happen. You guys will never do it.
Zombie Grip says so. It's got to be true. Top left-hand side, our red Zerg player from Afrika Freaks is soO.
In the bottom right, as the blue Terran, it is Cure. What does DPG stand for?
Dragon Phoenix Gaming.
Oh, okay. Because you know what's coincidental is also Dead Pixel Gaming.
Oh, really?
Which is definitely not a thing.
Yeah.
No, they never use the acronym, but also Dead Pixels is not a thing anymore.
Yeah, definitely not. No, Dragon Phoenix is kind of looking like the best team for the upcoming season of the China Team Championship. Dark, Cure, Parting. I can't remember who that Chinese player is at the moment. I don't think they picked... One of the teams picked up Nice, which is really nice. No memes intended, but... Because the China Team Championship forces you to use a Chinese player, right? Or a Taiwanese player each week. So if you have, like, the best Taiwanese Chinese player, then you're kind of in a really good advantage over everyone else anyways, right? I don't think Nice went to DPG. I think Firefly went to DPG, who was actually pretty awesome in the playoffs last season as well. He took down Maru in a map, so... Exciting stuff. Good to have a team league. China Team Championship is returning soon. Literally just waiting to find out when ESL Pro Tier qualifiers are going to be.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's so one of the questions for me. Well, there are two main questions I think for people. One for the community is what's happening with Korea because they still don't have the total plans lined out. Yeah. Which I do think they'll announce the plans probably during Super Tournament. There'll be like a graphic.
They're just going to do it after Katowice, right? It's just because like they've got to they have more than a year to do 3 seasons still. Because they have until because they probably want to do a season at the start of 2021, right? Before Katowice, I'd imagine. It's not like they're limited to finishing by November anymore.
Right. Yes, you're totally right about that.
So that's just my opinion. Anyways, your question.
That is also interesting, but you're right. You're right. I mean, I wouldn't also be surprised if this is a little rushed and then like the rest are like totally more spread out. But it is going to be one of those questions. We're kind of assuming 3 seasons just because that's what's on the website right now.
That's true. Yeah.
See, it's the only spoiler, I guess. But even that could just be a placeholder. Remember when Snick said WCS would return next year, guys? Just a placeholder saying, right? But
I hated that argument people used.
I know. The other thing for me is I think the idea of doing broadcasts for the equivalent to Challenger was still being like thrown around, but was unlikely. I'd like to see if they have any plans for coordinating a well-structured cast of the qualifiers for like Dallas or Montreal or whatever.
It's interesting because they definitely have the potential to do it, right? Like, yes, they'll have studios.
Right.
They used to do it all the time. They even did it for Katowice qualifiers until like a year or 2 ago. And it's obviously as well like Challenger as well, like Challenger, because the qualifiers are still going to be like a tournament. They're not just going to be like open bracket and like top 4 go to Dallas, right? They're still going to be like you qualify into like the qualifiers, and then it's like still like a 16-player event or something, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, that's what I understood. It's basically Challenger again.
Yeah, so it's basically Challenger. So that's why, because I feel like they don't want to like hire people just to cast like an open qualifier for Katowice, even though it's pretty epic, right? But like I feel like if you're gonna have like your own mini tournament, then it's absolutely worth getting people to a studio.
Exactly, and that's what I'm curious about. So I'm guessing we'll hear more about it after IEM because the guys doing everything.
They're probably a bit busy. Yeah.
Yeah, currently literally setting up for IEM. Anyways, we have something a bit different. So Cure goes for 3cc again, and that's fine. But soO actually goes for Overlord speed this game. It's like it took 4 games, but scouting good. Yep. Oh, did he go for 3cc? Yeah, there it is. There you go. And immediately slapping it down too. This time with Bio though.
Yeah. I kind of like it. You keep changing it up a little bit. You know, Bio tank play on this map's very good as well because of the push through the center. So I kind of like it. I think it works well. It's nice to change it up a bit, and You know, he had a lot of success with the bio game earlier. Obviously, he was very far ahead initially, but even the way he played it out from there, he looked very comfortable. And yes, that's easy to do when you've got a lead, but you know, he really made it look really good, you know? So, I kind of like it. soO's going to go faster on the Evo chambers, so he's going to be delaying the Bane Nest, delaying the Lair, which means his Bane speed will be a bit later, but he will have 1-1 upgrade advantage, which should help him trade out a little bit. I mean, we're just seeing the reactor building up on the starport, so we're not too far off seeing Medivacs and some pressure on the map. But yeah, KEO just very quick to get that third down, as you mentioned, and that just gives him a really nice bit of economy. This is actually 8 Hellions as well, as they go diving in towards the natural expansion. First few Zerglings starting to drop. When they go down, access is given to this mineral line. The Evo Chamber is a nice idea, but then you can just go around the back anyways, and this is 11 drones killed and counting, because there's also the Liberator in the main that's picked up 6 kills. And soO just loses 20 workers like that.
Oh, wow. I was about to give kudos to soO for trying to control the situation as well as possible, because he did go light on the links. That was certainly a bit of greed there, getting punished. But for what he had, he almost controlled that, you know, as best as he could. You know, Spore Crawl to the left maybe would have saved all those drones. I don't know. But nah, 20 drones. And Liberator is even coming home. So the only chance he has is the counter and hope there's not enough units. And there is enough for just barely a handful of lings.
Yeah, there's a few SCVs that I'll drop, but the thing about this is, again, it's just because it's bio, right? It's not like mech where you now build up for a bit of Q, so you can kind of get stabilized again. Q is about to have his first Medivacs popping out. He's going to be moving across the map, and he's going to start dealing damage, and at what point do you start playing catch-up as soO? I love this idea of the Overlord drop, but it gets seen by Hellions, so you can't even commit to it. Because that's the kind of thing that might have done some damage to get you back in the game. But now Q denies that before it even gets going. This is really tough. I was going to criticize the 8 Hellions as well, because 8 Hellions means you'd go for 2 more than usual and it delays your barracks. And it was looking like it wasn't really going to sync up with the Medivacs. But when you deal that amount of damage, it's absolutely worthwhile anyways.
You're right that it delays the barracks. That's just literally what happens when you spend money on something else. But I wonder if the 3CC really excuses that. Like, the timing is still pretty damn good for 5 racks. I'm just wondering out loud. I've never compared the builds. But he also continued making Hellions. I thought that might be for a fear of a Ling swell, but he's still building Hellions. So actually
he's
going
go
for
like 1-1 Hellbat.
Hellbat.
Well, not maybe not all in, but it is kind of committed, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. You don't have 2 factories. You don't have drilling claws. You don't have double pump tanks. Like, it is still something to consider, and it also is something to consider in the idea that, like, there's a reason Hellbats they're not your splash in the mid game. People tried that. Flash tried that. It doesn't work if you get enough Banelings. So we'll see if it works here, just because there aren't that many yet. But now that soO has kind of put the pieces together, he saw that incoming attack. I think he knows just build a lot more Banelings.
Here will go Widowmines behind it, so he is transitioning behind it. But it definitely is like a bit of a, oh, I'm going to commit a lot into this attack right now. So here we go. No combat shields on these Marines. There's a couple of the Banes finish up. I mean, even if the Hellbats just soak up the Banes, is there enough Marines afterwards to just then clean up as well? Probably not. Extra Lings still coming through. It's kind of close. This Queen count really makes me feel like it should just get pushed back, though. But I still think it's kind of okay for KEO. He loses 7 SCVs during this, so takes a bit of damage. It's still good on the worker count, still good on army supply. 2-2 on the way. Muta's on the way up from soO to try and maybe slow this army down a little bit. But now with Widowmines, it's the perfect kind of composition from KEO to deal with what soO is building.
That was a really nice hold. I think the concave of Queen started off pretty well, and then Cure having to go on creep, even... It was like literally 1 creep timber. It was basically the 4th base hatchery. That was still just enough. And he just didn't have quite enough Marines to really make do. That split made the Ling surrounds actually quite decent. But also Queens. Queens certainly helped. Combat shields also wasn't done. Now it is done. And this push is also pretty scary.
This push is going to hit just before 2-2 of soO as well. So it's kind of like the perfect time to fight, because you're going to, you know, when 2-2 is done, soO's basically going to be rebuilding a little bit rather than taking a full-on engagement. There's only a couple of Banelings left over. If KEO can target those down, it's just going to be Ling Muta. Not really maybe enough Marines alone just to fight this anyways, especially now they're currently down in upgrade. But yeah, I mean, reinforcements coming across, and it doesn't feel like it's getting any better for soO here, who's only just starting new Banelings, which is really troublesome, as we do see Banes hitting the 3rd base again. Still some counterattacks, but really not doing very much. Finally, a couple of SCVs going down, but it took a long time to get there. As KEO pushing forwards, just a few seconds away from his 2-2 upgrades right now. And again, we're on such a low Baneling count here. Let's see what the Widowmines can do initially. As okay, KEO just lifts up and leaves, but the Widowmines do a lot. And Q's just pulling back to reinforcements.
Yeah. You know, if soO could spend his bank, I think this would be going... He might not have pushed it back, but maybe it's looking a little less scary. Right now, it looks like it's going to be in the edge of just having to tap out. He used some of his bank on a bunch of mutas, but then lost some to the Widow Mines. He loses his 4th base. He will be able to replace that instantly and maybe even double expand right now, because he really is having trouble getting below 400 minerals. His queens keep going to be pulled to the front lines. They want to get back on creep spread, not necessarily think about injecting. Maybe double expand would be good, but he's actually going to do something really dangerous here. But I think it's going to be a good gamble. Send the mutas across the map. Try and at least distract Kier.
Look at Kier's game sense, though. He's just like, you know what? I've given him a few seconds. He might go for the mutas. And he just, like, sets up missile turrets in the mineral lines.
Well done. Well done. I mean, he's also thinking about pulling back, and I think that's exactly the time you would do that, right? He just cleared up creep spread and then hovered around the middle, so you're right. Good game sense. Muta count's pretty good, though. It will take on a missile turret even without that +1. Nope, not full repair.
Very fast repair as well. Kier was there immediately as he was actually pushing forwards with the entire army. Now he actually pulled a lot of it back to chase the mutas down. Needs to be careful not to lose Widow Mines. You see the Marines over on the other side. The thing is, obviously no mutas here, so they can just lift and leave and again relocate. There's no creep spread either, so soO really is very cautious about pushing too far off of his creep. So he is just really held back at the moment.
Right now we're getting into that complicated part of wow, such typical TVZ, Mutilating Bane versus Bio. I love it, but there's always that point where the Terran would get 3-3 and Thors, and then it would just seem like an unbeatable army, unless like a huge surround came down. And soO, even if they had a huge surround, he's not going to be propelled very much on creep. There's very limited amount of creep. So I don't even think that would work out super well. But he still has a shot. He definitely still has a shot to take a good fight, despite the 20 supply lead. That's actually doable for a good concave, good surround, as I was talking about. And there's really not that much splash, actually. He already go into Thors pretty quickly, so his factories produce like literally 2 Widow Mines in the front line. That's it.
Yeah, it's kind of not a lot of splash, which is always scary. It's just going to be so tough with only Lingbane Muta, though, right? And there's just no transition period for soO, because if you start transitioning, it's an investment that's going to take away from the army that you need to keep building. You know, 72 drones, he'd much rather be up on like 80-ish. And that's kind of the difference right now. Nice pullback with the Thor. Now, mutas take a lot of damage already as well. And now just reinforcements, a second Thor even, and those mutas are really going to have to be careful in these fights. So he just has no control in the game. Like, he doesn't have any counterattacks happening at all either, which is hard to set up when you're under pressure, but it's the kind of thing he needs to keep on doing and maybe keep Kier busy back at home.
Yeah, even just 20 lings here. He's going to try and go for the attack and a run by. I thought maybe he was setting up for a surround, but it's going to be the run by. Going into the 4th base, I believe that is a planetary already. He'd have to commit quite a lot to actually do damage there. The attack is going to be... yeah, not successful. Not successful at all for soO. He's trying to pick everything off slowly, but... catch some reinforcements. That's not too bad. Also, drones in the fray.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, boys. Get 'em.
This wasn't so bad, but there's also just no follow-up to it, right? So it's just like, you know, you take a little bit of a better fight somewhere while across the map you're just dying. Kier takes game 4, knocks soO out of the tournament. And that means tomorrow we are guaranteed a Kier versus Raynor best of 5.